The winter storm that you've been hearing about all week is arriving today, and it's now far more significant than originally anticipated. A massive swath of over 1 inch of ice accumulation and as much as 2 feet of snow is expected, and far more than 150 million people are directly in the path. This winter storm stands out not just because of its size, but how long the impacts are expected to last across the southern half of the country, from Texas to the East Coast, where snow and ice will overlap in extremely dangerous ways. New data shows way more snow and ice than originally forecasted, which has prompted states of emergencies in states like Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, with additional declarations expected as impacts expand. The impacts don't stop there, as an exceptionally strong polar surge is dropping south. Temperatures are forecasted to fall to 30 degrees below zero over the next few days, with wind chills approaching 60 degrees below zero tomorrow. That deep cold will eventually push into the south, allowing winter precipitation to linger, blocking repairs to damaged infrastructure. So in today's forecast, I'm going to break down exactly what you need to know about this major winter storm that is about to slam the United States. Now, we have a lot to talk about in today's forecast and a lot of new details on the risk of historic snowfall in the United States, with a widespread 1 to 2 feet of snow being possible and a crippling ice storm. So let's talk all about it, and we're going to begin with the future radar for today. This is the beginning of our winter storm. This afternoon is really going to be the ramp up of this winter system, as freezing rain and snow is going to increase in coverage in western Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandle, and back into Kansas. Now, later this afternoon, our freezing rain and snow is going to rapidly increase in coverage across Oklahoma City, back towards Tulsa, and all across the Texas Panhandle. Areas like Oklahoma have already seen a load of school closures for today. OU actually in Norman is actually closed this afternoon because of the ice threat, and it's going to rapidly increase later today. We're going to see a lot of freezing rain across Tulsa and Oklahoma City. It's going to be relatively light during the afternoon, but it's obviously going to make the roadway slick. Anything that's untreated is going to be dangerous to travel on. So big concerns there across Oklahoma. Our heavier bands of snow and freezing rain will be mostly in the Texas Panhandle and back into Kansas, but by late tonight is when this storm system is going to rapidly expand in size. We will have freezing rain from Little Rock back towards Childress and even near Fort Worth. Heavy snow is going to be ongoing in the dark blue. That includes Tulsa, it includes Fayetteville, and also towards the Texas Panhandle near Amarillo, and then some lighter snow on the north side of the storm system, mainly back over in Kansas near Kansas City. In between that, sandwiched together, is going to be some sleet. That'll be a little bit of freezing precipitation there, and that'll include areas like Oklahoma City around midnight tonight. Now, as we go into the overnight hours, Friday into early Saturday morning, this large band of freezing precipitation and snow will move into the Mississippi Valley, where we are going to begin to see the impacts of this winter storm in Tennessee and Kentucky. So if you're in Tennessee and Kentucky, you technically still have today to prepare. If you need to do any sort of last second stuff like get groceries, get a generator, that sort of thing, you can still do that. There is time to do so, but obviously this winter storm will arrive no later really than sunrise tomorrow morning for many of you. I do want to point out that there will be a large area of moderate to even heavy snowfall, especially in northern Arkansas, just outside of Memphis, and this will eventually go into Nashville tomorrow morning. This snowfall is not going to be nearly as heavy as the second band of snow that we're going to see develop with our next part of this winter storm. There's actually two parts to this. This is the first one that's going to impact areas like the mid-Atlantic and the East Coast sometime during the daytime tomorrow, and then the one behind it is going to explode in size by tomorrow night and into Sunday, and that's actually what's going to bring the very intense snow, freezing rain, and sleet for many of you. So this is basically the appetizer to the entree that we're going to see from this winter storm, and that back end system that's going to form could actually dump 2 times more snowfall than this ever would, because the snowfall rates are going to be a lot more significant. So this system is going to get pretty complicated pretty quickly. As we go into Saturday afternoon, all that snow and freezing rain will move into areas like Nashville, impacting Memphis, where heavy freezing rain is on the table. Ice storm warnings are likely all around that area, as we could see over 1 inch of ice accumulation. Little Rock will continue to see freezing rain. Snow is going to move into the Ohio Valley during the daytime on Saturday. Again, this will be mostly light to moderate. Snowfall rates up to 1.5 to 2 inches per hour are possible. As I mentioned before, this is what's going to be dumping a lot more snowfall. And then as we go into Saturday afternoon, all that snow and ice is going to start to blow up back over in the mid-Atlantic, where we could see some very significant ice storm conditions. And then a large area of moisture is going to develop behind this, and this is what's going to bring some big snowfall totals and also big ice totals. So in just a moment, we'll go more in detail about the second part of the winter storm and how much snow and ice you will see in your location. But before we do that, we need to talk about about the new sponsor of today's video. Some days, the weather isn't the only thing that feels overwhelming. When you're constantly tracking active weather and the stress of day-to-day life, it's easy to forget to check in on what's going on up here too. And just like the weather, real change doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from consistent patterns over time. That's something I've learned the hard way, and it's really helped me to take a step back and seek advice from someone who can help me better understand myself. That's why this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes therapy simple and accessible, without the barriers that stop a lot of people from ever taking that first step. You fill out a short questionnaire, and in as little as a couple of days, you can be matched with a licensed therapist who fits your needs and preferences. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists at no extra cost. Over 6 million people have used BetterHelp because it gives you a way to build that mental foundation one session at a time. That way, you're better prepared when life gets intense. If you've been meaning to focus on your mental health this year, this is a great place to start. Click the top link in the description below or go to betterhelp.com/maxvelocity to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. Now let's get back to the forecast. Now let's talk more about what's going to be happening as we go into Saturday night and Sunday morning. So again, Saturday night we'll have snow falling across the Ohio Valley, back into Virginia and North Carolina, freezing rain and sleet in Tennessee, a little bit in Arkansas still, and then back over into the Carolinas, especially near Greenville, South Carolina, and then even back over towards Charlotte. This is that new band of precipitation that's going to develop, and in between the two, there's going to be a little bit of a hole in terms of moisture. There will still be some light snow, freezing rain, and sleet, but it's not going to be that significant in between the two. But as we go into Saturday night, that freezing rain is going to grow rapidly in size. It's basically going to merge into one large winter storm by Saturday night. So a freezing rain across the Carolinas, Kentucky, back in North Texas, right along the Mississippi River Valley, and then look at this large swath of snow here. We're going to have Arctic air coming out of Canada as we go into Saturday night, which is going to get a little bit more intense, and then we'll also have a lot of moisture coming out of the Pacific. So all of this snow in this region here by Saturday night will be a lot more intense than that first band of snow that's going to be impacting the mid-Atlantic. This will actually be coming down at about 2 times more in terms of accumulation numbers than what we're going to see over in the mid-Atlantic. That's because our snowfall ratios are vastly different here. Basically, we're seeing a lot more snow for how much liquid is coming out of the sky. So in Texas and Oklahoma, much heavier snow is going to happen Saturday night and early Sunday. And then as we go later into Sunday morning, that freezing rain, sleet, and heavy snow is going to continue from Oklahoma back into Ohio and also across parts of the Northeast. Our heaviest freezing rain is where all those ice storm warnings are currently in effect. Notice those dark purples. That is where we could have very significant freezing rain falling, which is going to stack up very quickly, leading the threat of widespread power outages in areas right along the Mississippi River, just north of Vicksburg, back up towards Memphis, Tennessee. Even Little Rock will be dealing with freezing rain. And also, if you're back over in North Texas, yes, there will be a brief transition to snow Sunday morning, but it's not going to be as much snow as areas like Missouri or Illinois are going to see. You might only get 1 or 2 inches of snow. It's not going to be very significant for those areas. Later Sunday morning, this winter storm is going to mostly move out of areas in Texas and Oklahoma. Yes, we could still have some light flurries, light freezing drizzle still. That's entirely possible. You might notice if you're back down in Houston, there's no pink going through your area. And even though there's no pink going through your area, any rain that does fall will likely freeze right after that Arctic front comes through. So there will likely at least be some ice on the roadways on Sunday back down towards the Gulf Coast. Freezing rain continues in the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley. And then by around lunchtime, we have heavy snow all across the Ohio Valley and even some pretty significant snow falling back over near Long Island, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, with snowfall rates as high as 3 inches per hour. So it's going to be very rapid snow over there, which could easily lead to over a foot of snow in some of those areas. Freezing rain will continue in parts of Tennessee, back into the Carolinas, and even around Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, you guys will likely see some icing on Saturday and Sunday. As we go later into Sunday afternoon, all that heavy snow is going to start to move into the Northeast. We'll still have some snow in Ohio, but very heavy snow will continue in Pennsylvania and southern New England, with sleet right in the middle of the freezing rain and snow. That'll be mainly back over in Long Island by about 6 o'clock on Sunday. Freezing rain continuing in the Carolinas right along the Appalachian Mountains, and then heavy rain will continue in the southeast with a risk of severe weather, including an isolated threat of damaging winds and maybe a tornado in Georgia and Florida. By late Sunday night and early Monday, most of the snow is out of the United States. The only thing left over will be a light batch of snow across New England, and a little bit of freezing rain is possible near Boston, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. That could also impact areas like Cape Cod as we go later in Monday. Now, in terms of total snowfall accumulation, this could easily be a historic winter storm for many of you. And I'm going to be honest, part of this forecast is actually kind of conservative. This is my own forecast graphic for snowfall accumulation over the next 3 to 4 more days. And back over in northern Oklahoma and southeast Kansas, that is one of the areas that I think is highlighted for a higher potential of seeing over a foot of snow. So that's Tulsa, that's Enid, Oklahoma, and near Wichita, 12 to 15 inches of snow is what I'm thinking there. And then back over here in the other white region, from southern New Hampshire and Vermont back into Kentucky near Louisville and Cincinnati, I'm at least expecting 12 to 15 inches in this area. But I do think if you're over here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, and southern New England, there is a legit chance of over 18 inches of snow in some of these locations. Notice I don't have anything outlined right now for 18 inches or more. The reason why is because I don't have enough confidence yet to outline an area that could see over 1.5 feet of snow, but I think we could even see up to 2 feet of snow near Long Island, which would make this a very historic winter storm. This does not happen very often these days. We've really not seen very many major winter storms in the Northeast, so we are talking about a significant snow event that's going to be happening up in New England. Now, elsewhere, we're not talking about nearly as much snow if you're over in like Nashville, for example, maybe 1 to 4 inches. Dallas, Fort Worth, right around 1-4 inches of snow. If you're in the Fort Smith area, we're probably going to be right on the cusp of 8 to 10 inches. Little Rock probably right around 5 to 6 inches of snow. St. Louis will probably be on the lower half of the 8 to 12. I honestly think it might be closer to 6 or 7 inches. And then back over towards Chicago and Detroit, we're going to be on the fringe of maybe an inch or two of snow. Not talking about anything too major up there. But again, this is my forecast, and I'm going to show you the actual computer models in a second so you get a better idea of your exact snow accumulation. But generally speaking, this is my forecast. You know, maybe some of you will be excited about seeing a lot of snow. Maybe you're not. But for those that love snow, you definitely want to be up in the north this weekend. Here's a more rough estimate of how much snowfall accumulation you can expect. If you're back over in Dallas, Fort Worth, we're not expecting a whole lot. Once again, if you're back up near Chicago, better chance of at least a few inches of snow. I'm leaning more towards 1 to 3 inches. But again, most of northern Oklahoma and southern Kansas, we're talking about big time snowfall. We could have upwards of 18 inches of snow in some isolated locations there right along the border. So definitely talking about impressive numbers there. And then back through Kentucky and along the East Coast, this is where things get really interesting. Again, we could have some spots over New England as we go into this weekend, talking about over the threat of 20 inches of snowfall. So again, get ready for a major winter storm in these areas. Have those snow plows ready to go. Your snow shovel might have a career change after this weekend. And ice still remains our most significant threat out of this winter storm, as we are expecting a widespread 1/4 to a 1/2 of an inch of ice pretty much anywhere in this region. We are talking Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco, southern Arkansas, including Little Rock, even back over towards Memphis, into Kentucky, Nashville, Tennessee. All of you guys have to be ready here for this big ice storm that's about to go down. Not all of you will actually experience ice storm conditions, but even a 1/4 of an inch of ice can weigh down power lines, and it can knock out power for days. And even in some cases, if you're back over right here along the Mississippi River, if we end up seeing over an inch of ice, which is the current forecast, we could have power out for upwards of a week. So very concerning trends right now that we're seeing with this very major winter storm. And then back along the East Coast, we'll have a large area with significant ice accumulation, predominantly across areas like Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. If you're back over New Jersey and Long Island, we'll be talking about maybe up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice. And then Maryland is in a little bit of an interesting predicament. I think Washington, D.C. could get around a 1/4 of an inch of ice as we go into Sunday. And then parts of Delaware and even New Jersey will also be included in that. And then if you're back over near Roanoke in Virginia and also western North Carolina, just to the west of Charlotte, those are some areas that are also expected to pick up some pretty significant icing. And this is all coming just about 2 years after Hurricane Helene hit these same exact areas. So unfortunately, we could be talking about power outages in these areas for days and maybe even over a week with the current forecast. And then in terms of power outages, this is our power outage forecast for this weekend. A lot of this is going to come from the ice accumulation, but be prepared for power outages from Dallas, Fort Worth back into Memphis and Nashville. That is where widespread power outages are possible this weekend. Same thing back over in the Carolinas, right near the Appalachian Mountains and just east of Atlanta, Georgia. So be ready for the potential here of significant power outages as we go into this weekend. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We'll have another video later today, but we'll probably do that after we are live. We're actually going to probably go live and record a video, so we'll do those both at basically the same time here later this afternoon. So make sure to click the bell icon so you're notified when we do go live. We are going to have extensive coverage this weekend on both Saturday and Sunday with dozens of live storm chasers and thousands of live cameras across the country. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to have live views basically of everything on this winter storm, so stay tuned for that. We will be providing commercial-free coverage all weekend long. Also, a huge shout out to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's forecast. Make sure to check them out. It's the top link in the description below. Thank you all again so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next forecast or live stream.